Hi guys, Jay Smith here, welcome to the AskGolfNut channel. Today we're doing a matchup between the P770 from Taylormade and the i230 from Ping. Now they are both in a very similar category, both very similar lofted. I think throughout the whole set there's only maybe a half a degree or degree, depending on what part of the set you're talking about, difference between these two. They're within reason aimed at the exact same golfer. Generally speaking, you'd say the low to mid handicap, the ones that are going to want something which is a slightly smaller chassis, slightly less help, still has got plenty of feel to it, and plenty of accuracy and consistency and all those things that you hear. But it still has a little bit of tech, just in case you don't quite do your job properly, which we all don't do every so often. We have the speed pocket in the bottom that's been around now for quite some time. Comment below if you can remember the first one, rocket blades, speed blades, one of the ones. The biggest thing when you've got on here is the fact that because it is a P770, it's got all the tech you would say as a P790, its bigger brother, but in a smaller chassis. But it has got 46 or so grams of tungsten, I think, in this thing, which they are moving around in the head, depending on what loft you've got, to try and tune trajectory and stuff like that. So obviously, in the long irons and the 4-iron and stuff like that, it's going to be basically just dropped as low as it can do to help launch. And then when it comes to like 8-9 pitching wedge, it's going to be higher up to try and control trajectory. So let's go grab the i230 and see what it's got in that. So the i230 now in my hands. Now there are still bits of tech in the i230. Generally speaking, Taylormade don't shy away from explaining just how much technology is within the iron. When it comes to Ping, generally speaking, they're a little bit more subtle when they come to doing their marketing. However, the i230 is a replacement to the i210. The i210 was, being honest, a really good iron anyway. And so the difference is main difference between the i210 and i230, you've got like little changes here and there, which then culminate into something which I think is a marked improvement over the i210. Which really what you've got is you've got an increase in the activated elastomer, which is in here, and again, Taylormade use speed foam and just to try and deaden noise, and that's what these are. These are not pure bladed irons, and so when you don't get pure bladed irons, you got a little bit of a resonance frequency, which can be sometimes off-putting. So by putting something in the head, it calms that resonance down and makes it sound or feel so much nicer. You've got that tip and toe weights when it comes to the tungsten. You've got 46 grams of the stuff when it comes to the P770. I don't think you've quite got that amount when it comes to the i230, but it's placed in the tip of the toe and also tip of the shaft as well to try and maximize the spread of the MOI, try and make it as forgiving as they possibly can. Of course, that's quite low and it'll help in the launch as well. You got to remember when it comes to these, when it comes to 4-5 and stuff like that, the longer irons are a little bit more compact. And so, yeah, if you're going to go think about buying a full set of these, you're going to be testing the 7-iron in this, remember, when it comes to fitting. So just be aware that in the long irons, these do get a little bit smaller. And it's because apparently the tour players like it. You've got Micromax grooves. Ping's idea at trying to control the flyers and stuff like that, and that's now obviously, I think only G430 hasn't got Micromax grooves, so obviously G430 doesn't quite work with Micromax grooves yet. Maybe G435, that'll be in there. And the rest of it is just talking about feel and sound and rounded leading edges and stuff like that for just aesthetic side of things. So right, let's go get it on a hole. I've got FSX Play. It's the 4K software that Foresight use, and it's just a little bit more visually nice to use and look at. So let's go get on a hole where we have a little bit of fun testing these two out and see which one wins when it comes to the looks and the feel. Remember, right at the end of the video, I'll be testing forgiveness between these two while I whack these all over the face and see which one wins at that. So simulator now on, we're at the Holler Pines, hole 3, it's 176 yards and it's down by a fair bit. We've got it on FSX Play because it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than the standard FSX 2020, but we'll still have the data tiles, etc. So you'll be able to see the shot data as I hit them. So we've done all the technology between the two. Again, we've got full reviews on the channel when it comes to these individually. If you want to go pop up there, have a look. We've got i230 first. Now out of the two, between this and the P770, i230 possibly is the least bladed look. The P770 has got more of a blade look to it, where this has got a little bit more of a cavity, if you can call it a cavity. It's the smallest cavity you've ever seen. Now there is a bigger cavity there, it's just a case of the badge. kind of disguises it, because inside there you've got all that urethane trying to make it feel as nice as possible, because remember, it is still a cast head. Right, looks wise, we have a medium-ish top line, but because it's curved, you don't really get to see the full thickness of it. When it comes to sole thickness, again, it's medium. I wouldn't say it's massive. I wouldn't say, definitely it's not blueprint small. And head length, if anything, head length is slightly longer than the P770, but it is by a millimetre or two. So we are critiquing to the ridiculous level. And then offset, it's the pleasing amount of. I would say possibly the i230 is a fraction chunkier looking than the P770, but remember, when it comes to the i230, in the longer irons, they do, yeah, squidgy up a little bit, and that's because apparently the tour pros like it. Not so much me when I'm looking down for a 4-iron and it's even smaller, but yeah, you kind of get the idea. Right, let's go give this one a hit and see how this feels, because out of all of the pings, this is possibly my favourite of the lot, the i230. Not the best hit in the world, must say, low toe. But again, whoever said golf clubs of this size aren't forgiving quite clearly hasn't hit i230s, etc., because that's 8.4 millimeters low, 12 mil toe. So yes, that is a definite low toe shot, but it's carried 174.8 yards. Don't forget the 0.8. Yeah, so within reason. How forgiving is an i230 already? We haven't done the forgiveness side yet between these two. That will come at the back end of the video, where I'm going to basically hit all of these over the face and yeah, glean and understand of which one retains ball speed better, because that's what we really want to see when it comes to forgiveness. Again, left and right, that's me, or that's the golfer. But when it comes to you mishitting it, how much efficiency, how much fast smash factor depends on what launch might you like using, which one's best out of the two when it comes to retaining it from weird and wacko hits. So it's not fair to say that felt anything other than a miss strike, so we can't really critique which one's better at the moment through that strike. Can do that one a bit better. Slightly toey, but yep, every bit of distance out of that one. Whoop, whack. 1 mil low, 4.8 mil toe. You get away with toeys all day long. Just some of this, yeah, not so much as I did the first one. Feel soft. i230 is possibly the softest iron apart from Blueprint in the ping range. You've got to be careful when you go down the Blueprint. Blueprint is tiny, and it is forged, so to get anything better than the i230, you have to go ridiculous. When it comes to ping, when it comes to obviously Taylormade, you can go P770, P7MC, which then is not such a massive jump like the i230 is against Blueprint, because the i59 with that Lumicore is still a bit cracky, or actually the i230 feels better than or softer, should I say, than the i59. But you've got another option when it comes to P770, but this is definitely my pick when it comes to ping. Again, not plumb on, low on the face. But it's going to be fairly straight, and it's going to be absolutely, yes, acceptable. Now, when it comes to how I hit 8 mil low, there you go. Bang on when it comes to horizontally, well, 0.2 of a millimetre out, and it was just in case it was 8 mil low, so slight thin. And again, we are going to be testing all around the face when it comes to between these two, to see which one is more forgiving than the other. But softness-wise or feeling, I love the i230. It's my favourite of ping so far, I think. I mean, I love the Blueprint, and it feels just a fraction better than this. But if you look at Blueprint being as unforgiving as it is, i230's got to be the best balance of everything. Right, let's go hit it another time to see how close I can get to the pin. Decent hit. Am I going too fast though? Possibly. I'm going to go over the flag. Yeah. So again, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I'm hitting it, and depending on how fast I want to hit it, 91.69 miles an hour as I start to warm up. Effectively what I'm doing is I'm just hitting it too far. It's gone 178.7. I do like FSX play when it brings everything out to the ridiculous level of accuracy. But again, that was slightly toey, bang on when it comes to vertical, 0.6 low, but 5.7 mil toe, so it wasn't actually bang on, but 5.7 millimeters. It's doing so well. It is my pick i230, I definitely would be able to game a full set of these. Well, yeah, I'd have to see the 5-iron, because again, they start to get smaller when it comes to long irons. Again, apparently, the tall players like it. Again, that's not bob on. That's me, face open. Oh, that might miss the... No, it's got, that's fine. I thought for a second that's going to miss the green. That's my fault. You'll see there by the hit, slightly low on the face, fractionally hit 3mm. But there's the killer face. 2.9 open. That is my fault, not the golf club's. But it feels fine. I can feel the low strike. When you go to these kind of golf clubs, you are going to gain that nuance of strike. You know, you are going to know exactly where you're going to hit it. Right, so let's go get the P770. Let's go flick over data sets and let's go see the difference between these two in looks and, more importantly, feel. So flicked over now to the P770, and this one hasn't got any form of cavity on it at all, like the i230, or the i230 is the smallest cavity you've ever seen, if you can call that the smallest cavity. This one looks very much so like the P790, P770. It's just a case it's a smaller head. Similar tech inside, we've done all that kind of thing. However, let's go see what the difference is between looks and feel. So looks wise, I would say the top line is thinner than i230. Sole thicknesses are possibly minor. I mean, it's going to be such a minor difference, but it's marginally smaller than i230, and blade lengths are again marginally smaller than i230, but it's such a small amount. So let's go give it a hit and see how it feels, if there's any feel difference whatsoever. When you hit it fat, probably not such a good idea. Right, so that's missing, there we go, missing left. That's my fault. Hit the ground slightly forehand, closing the face. What are we? There we go. That's a chunk. And then two shut. So that's going left because of the strike, and that's me, not the golf club. So it's not really fair, like the first one, when it comes to i230, to say if it's better or worse, because yeah, I didn't do an adequate enough job of making sure I hit it okay. Better job. Definitely better job, but there is a difference in acoustic between the two. I would say there is a difference. Now, if I had to, hands behind my back, I'd have to say i230 wins fractionally when it comes to softness. But it's like minor, it is tiny. I possibly like the look of P770 better because it's just got that fraction smaller look. But again, that's subjective. If you want a slightly bigger look, i230, and then P770 with all the little differences, just fraction of this and a fraction of that, just suits my eye just a fraction more. But no, it feels lovely. I mean, I would have to say you'd have to go to P7MC to make the next step up when it comes to, yeah, I mean, that's, as I'm swinging, as I'm hitting a little bit faster, what's my swing speed, 91 miles an hour, it's just nice, really is. I mean, Taylormade do know how to make some very, very nice irons. Possibly my favourite is P7MC because it's just pure on forged, lovely, hardly any tech in it whatsoever, and it's just honestly lovely. This one's got a fraction more. I mean, again, with that tech, it's going to protect against slight mishits. Again, we'll do the mishits. After I've hit a few more of these, we're going to go into whacking these two all over the face to see which one retains better efficiency, smash factor, when you don't hit middle. And sometimes by a lot to see if there's a winner between these two. Oh, that's terrible. That's very low on the face. That's much like the one we had right at the very start when it comes to i230. Although this one is very low. That's a top. Well, not a top, that's a thin. But there's not much more to go before you get to a thin. And that's my miss. If I'm going to miss, generally speaking, I'll hit slightly low on the face. As a general rule, I'll hit a fat once every 100 shots, but I will gravitate towards a thin if there is a miss, because always a thin is so much better than a fat. And if you're going to miss it, try and miss it out the toe by 20 mil if you're going to, rather than the heel, because there's no hosel on the toe. Again, not plumb on either. It's got a fraction, a little bit more of a cracky feel. That has, I mean, the acoustics is slightly better on i230, but it is very, very slightly. But there still is a difference in acoustics. Now, that's low again, low on the face, 8.5 millimeters, and a little bit drawy. But I mean, it's again 1.31 efficiency from a low shot on the face. What can you ask more from a golf club when you're not going to hit it middle, yet it still does the job you are asking it to do? But hit fairly middle, again, it's going to do the job that you want it to. It's just a really good golf club, and it's much more of a measure of how well I on the day am hitting it rather than how forgiving or not that it is, because considering it's doing really well. I mean, 4.3 mil low, 2.1 mil toe, within reason, bob on. So, right, differences between the two when it comes to looks, I'd probably say P770 has it fractionally over i230. i230's got a fraction thicker top lines and soles and blade lengths, but it's marginal. When it comes to feel though, i230 is softer, and it's something that I'm looking for. I like softness. If you want something that's a bit more explosive, a bit more cracky, P770. So they're the main differences when it comes to, yeah, they'll both hit target depending on what you do as a golfer. But let's go give this a whack all over the face. Both the P770 and the i230. Whack it all over, high toe, heel low, all that idea, and see if there's any winner between the two when it comes to forgiveness. Right guys, to make sure this video isn't a marathon, I've decided to pop it into two chunks. The second part, the performance and the forgiveness side, can be had by clicking on this box by the side of me. And we'll have a look at these two irons and see which one comes out best when it comes to performance and forgiveness.